sometimes in the middle of the night, people will be sleeping and you'll just like hear somebody crying until like they'll just be quiet because they like passed away. My name is Adhieu, and I'm 25. I was born and raised in Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. So my family's from South Sudan, but there was a big civil war that lasted like over 20 years. So my mom had to escape South Sudan, and she was pregnant with me, and she walked for like hundreds of miles from South Sudan to Ethiopia and then to Kenya, where they resettled in the refugee camp. My mom, she was the oldest of 10, and she lost 6 siblings during the war, and she gave birth to me like right after we got into the refugee camp. So like during the whole time she was pregnant with me, she was like, you know, in the wild, walking. She told me many stories about how sometimes in the middle of the night people will be sleeping and you'll just like hear somebody crying until like they'll just be quiet because they like passed away. Or they'll try to cross rivers and then like they'll be eaten by wild animals like crocodiles, hippos, things like that. And then when I got to the refugee camp, I didn't really know anything else about life because that's like how I grew up. But like it was a refugee camp. All I remember was like the UN and UNICEF would bring us like rations. So we'll go to school and they'll give us like soap or like just like rations of food. They'll like pass out and stuff. My mom, she like is very smart. She's very intelligent. She like speaks Arabic and she spoke English. So the UN people used her. She like volunteered for the UN to like translate for people. So they were like taking people from the refugee camp to like developed countries like Australia or the US in my case, or like Canada or like Europe, you know. So she was like translating for like all these. There was a lot of young boys who had lost their parents because the Arabs either killed off their like dads and like took away their like moms. So like there was a lot of young boys and they were supposed to go into like child soldiers. So they were gonna be child soldiers. So a lot of them escaped, like thousands of them, including my uncle that I live with now. Like people don't get the process for refugees to come to the United States. It's a really long process. It's not like they just come. And like that's why when I hear people like just thinking like, oh, immigrants or refugees are like, you know, they're criminals, they're bad people. I'm like, these people are just literally coming here to have a better life. And it's not like they just woke up one day and came. It takes like a year. They get background checks, like they make sure like they're not like terrorists or anything. And usually the process takes like, it can take like 1 to like 6 years. After a few months, we got accepted. We came to the US. I was 8 turning 9. And it was like my mom and my father didn't come. He still lives in South Sudan. And then like it was me and like 5 brothers. So it was like my mom was like 6 kids. And then we just resettled and it was hard because everything is so different. I remember the first time we landed, we were in Boston. They gave us a hotel because we had a layover. And I just like looked at like the Boston like skyline. I was like, there's so many lights. And they were just going like, turn off the light, turn it back on, flush the toilet, and then wait. And then my mom was like, kids, go to bed. Like, we have a flight in the morning. Like, this is like one of my first memories of the US. And then we were settled in Utah, and I've lived here since. It was like culture shock. My first day of school, I didn't really speak English. I didn't speak any English, not really. And then there was a bunch of kids, like all white kids. I was like the only like, not even just like black person of color, like my whole grade, like my whole class. And when you come from like where everybody's black that looks like you to like the complete opposite, I was like, I went out at recess and I was just sitting there by myself because I was like overwhelmed. And all the kids were like, they're so nice coming to come say hi to me, like, oh, you have a new student, like, hi. And I remember being like, and I just started crying. And I don't cry usually, but I just started crying. And then my teacher had to take me to class and like, was like, leave her alone. And then like, I was going home and me and my brother rode the bus to school, but because he was like younger, he got out like at 12 and I got out like at 3 and I was like, my brother's lost. He's gone. I went home crying. I'm like, I had the worst day. I'm like, there was all these white kids looking at me. I didn't know what they were saying to me. And then my brother got lost. And my mom was like, oh, like he's here. He came early, you know, like it was just like, it was a hard day. And then you get used to life and like everything. But like when you grow up in Utah, you always know you're different, you know, especially like we have exceptionally dark skin. We're the darkest people in the world, and like very skinny and tall. Like I was just taller than everybody, darker than everybody. Like I knew I was different. But because I grew up in the refugee camp where everybody looked like me, I never really had an identity crisis like some African Americans might have, because I was just like, I know people like me exist. They're just not in this place. As children, we recognize discrimination more than our parents, because my mom, like, even if someone's racist to her, she won't really like understand it, or like she'll just be like, oh, like they're being rude. But like kids are very brutal, and in elementary school, kids would tell you like, oh, you're ugly because you're black, or I don't like you because you're black, or like, why is your skin so dirty, or like just like, or like, why is your hair nappy, like why don't you have straight hair like me? And I'm just like, and those things like, you know, like hurt your feelings. So you want to be accepted, especially like high school, like middle school. I went through the whole assimilation phase, and I was like, okay, like I want to fit in. I never wanted to be white, but I want to like, okay, I want to be normal. My name is Adhieu, and nobody can say Adhieu, so I was like, okay, call me Addie. And then 2 years later, I was like, I hate that name. Don't ever call me that again. Because they couldn't pronounce it. They like say like Adhieu, and now I go by Adhieu because like Adhieu is like, it's like difficult for people, you know. Even though like I'm speaking from a religious standpoint, like we do believe like we're all children of God and stuff, and like, you know, love your neighbor and like, and that stuff. But it's like, it's okay for people to be different. And I feel like if we did like acknowledge differences, I think the turning point for me when I was trying so hard to fit in and like assimilate in like 8th grade, I went to girls camp. And believe it or not, in girls camp, their theme was like, why try so hard to fit in when you're born to stand out? And like that like changed my life. And I was like 15, I think. And that's when I was like, yeah, like I am different, like that's okay. Like I don't really have to be like everybody else in my school. And that's when I like literally changed my whole life, like switched schools and yeah. Anyway, like became who I am, and I've never like looked back. If you just find the right group of people here and like you make friends, I'm not saying like they have to be black or like Hispanic or anything, just like the right group of friends and like who accept you for who you are, that's really all you need.